Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alec Slatke. Thank you for joining the final webinar in AAA Northeast Teen Driving Safety Series. It's a topic that's always important. It's especially important right now and during the summer when teens are more out on the roads and more at risk. And this is maybe the webinar that I've been looking most forward to. We've had great speakers about distracted driving and drunk driving and drowsy driving and lots of different issues. But today we get to hear directly from the young adults themselves who are learning to drive. So this is really exciting, and I think it's an opportunity that parents don't always get, and driver education teachers don't always get to just hear directly from the teens about what's working and what's not working in driving safety. So thank you for joining us. Thanks for your patience. We were ironing out a couple technical difficulties, but I'm joined today by three outstanding students, great young drivers, and folks who are really going to have a lot of great insight today. So on your screen, you can see Isabelle Boullier. I confirmed that pronunciation earlier, but it's great to have you here, Isabelle. Isabelle is the SAD National President of the Student Leadership in College Advisory Council, and she is starting your undergraduate studies tomorrow at Roger Williams in Bristol, Rhode Island. Is that right, Isabelle?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, that is super exciting, and congratulations on starting tomorrow. We wish you certainly the best of luck. And I'm also joined on the phone by a couple rising seniors at Hillside High School in New Jersey. First, we have Giovanni Lara. He was a recipient of the 2020 AAA Driver Education Award. How you doing, Giovanni?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm just excited to be talking from my experience about new driving.
Great. And we also have Mikayla Cook-Fowler, a peer of Giovanni's at Hillside High School in New Jersey as well. Hillside, for those who might not be aware, just south of Newark, a few miles west of New York City. We've got folks from all around the region. So just wanted to give that context. But Mikayla also was a recipient of the 2020 AAA Driver Education Award. So congrats to you on that as well, Mikayla, and happy to have you here. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing good. It's nice to be here too.
All right, great. Well, I wanted to just kick it off by letting each of the young adults here talk for a minute or two about why they care about safe driving. Obviously, they care about it because they're willing to spend 45 minutes of a Thursday afternoon right the day before college starts, and I think before high school starts as well, talking about it with us. So maybe I'll start with you, Mikayla. What makes you care about being safe behind the wheel?
What makes me care about being safe is that there's other drivers as well, and I have family and stuff. So when I'm driving, I want to make sure I'm being safe so I don't want to put anyone else in a vulnerable situation or myself, getting into a car accident or anything like that. I want to just make sure I'm being safe for everyone, myself, my family, when I have to take them places. My father, he's getting old, so I'm gonna have to, be his chauffeur. I'm gonna have to run errands for him, do stuff for him. So it's just it's more on a personal level. I just want to be safe for everyone around me, and just do my part as a citizen.
That's great. That's really a lot more mature than a lot of adults, I think, unfortunately. How about you, Giovanni?
Yeah, kind of rolling off of what Mikayla said. I just want to have everybody in my car safe and everybody around me as well that's driving around my vehicle to be safe as well. because it's not only, you know, for keeping you safe and everybody who's in your car safe, but also for other vehicles. You know, if you need a brake, if someone's braking hard up ahead, you're supposed to brake as well. Show them lights so they know, you know, not to brake too close to hit your vehicle. Um, Look at your mirrors, you know, look at your blind spots, make sure you're all clear to turn or to back up. Don't accelerate too fast if it's a slow zone, you know, because to have everybody in the future and to have everybody, you know, together, you know, and safe, you know, you have to play it safe in the vehicle or wherever you go. And that's just off the top of my head, you know.
No, that's great. And unfortunately, there are too many adults that are not following all that good advice that you just gave.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about, you know, the teens not following that advice as well. And Isabelle, I'll ask the same question to you.
Sorry, there was a helicopter flying by. So I'm gonna not only echo what Mikayla and Giovanni said, but I also have a couple of my own personal reasons. One, 5 years ago, my sister was hit head on by a drunk driver. So I learned on very early that I had to not only start thinking about safe driving, but I really had to start preaching about safe driving, from not only drunk driving, but to distracted driving as well, advocating for the safety of my peers, for children who cannot have a voice of their own because of, you know, a guardian or, you know, someone else on the roadway potentially kills or injures them, but as well as for, you know, anyone else on the roadway who's just an innocent driver minding their own business. As well as for my family, you know, I want to come home safe to my family, and my family wants to come home safe to me. I want to come home safe to my boyfriend, and, you know, vice versa, for all the people that I care about, but as well as for the innocent driver on the roadway. I think it's very important that we are conscious of the decisions we're making on the roadway. But as well as it's kind of it's a little ironic that this was a week after this incident happened, but I saw an entire car accident fold right in front of me, and I saw. Now I've seen car accidents before, but I've never seen them unfold like this one did while I was on my way to Cape Cod. And one of the first things I did was jump out of the car to go make sure no one was else was injured. Thank goodness no one else wasn't, but it's the potential ifs and what ifs if someone was, and what would have happened if there was a life taken because of, you know, poor decisions, or, you know, just generally like poor decisions that someone was making behind the wheel to cause, you know, harm to other drivers on the roadway. So that's exactly what I would say for caring about safe driving.
That's great. I mean, really just impressive that you turned such a terrible event in your family into advocacy and work to make, you know, your peers' lives better and safer around you. So really, really inspiring. And I guess to turn directly to driving, maybe I'll start with you on this one, Isabelle. When did you learn how to drive? Like, who taught you how to drive, and what was that experience like? How did you feel about it?
So I started driving a little after I was 16, I think. Yeah. So I took the summer course the year when the summer I turned 16, and then I started driving, and I got my license by 17. So my dad predominantly taught me how to drive. My mom was there in the car occasionally, but my dad predominantly taught me how to drive. You know, first being one of seven and him already teaching two other children ahead of me, he's very patient. I mean, I would say it was very nerve-wracking for me. You know, I started on the back roads, you know, learning how to drive. You know, I would always follow what I was supposed to when I'm getting into the car, making sure everything was all set. And then at like some point, after like a couple weeks, he took me out onto the actual main road, and it was nerve-wracking. Like, I was like sweating like bullets. Like, if you would have looked at my shirt, you would have been like, yo, where's that girl's been? But other than that, I mean, it was pretty nerve-wracking for me at some points, especially when I went on the highway. I wasn't a big fan of the highway. now I've accustomed myself to merging. Wasn't a big fan of merging, but I've become way better at it just from practice, and from continuously talking to my parents about if I have any questions. I still ask some questions till this day, and I've been driving for over a year and a half. So I mean, yeah, it was a combination of I absolutely loved. I was so excited to drive, but I was also really nervous at the same time because anything can happen in a split second, and I did not at the time have the reflexes to react like, say, maybe my parents would.
Yeah, I can remember being very, very stressed out from merging when I was learning to drive, which was not that long ago. It seems like a long time ago, but I don't think it actually was that long. Was there something, Isabelle, that either worked very well when you were learning to drive, or you think didn't work that well that others can learn from?
So one thing, well, two things I can say is one, my dad was very patient with me. He yelled at me very, very, very rarely. And though obviously the times he did was because, I had to do something very quickly, and it was to kind of like, get my reaction time up. So like in the future, I had that same reaction time. But I think that's what I think a lot of kids need is they need patience from their parents. That's what worked very well for me because, no matter how many times, like, I did something or I asked a question, my dad was like, Isabelle, da 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 da, and he would explain it to me, and then he would, reteach me it again if it needed to be. And I'm gonna be completely and 150% honest. When I was started driving, I had trouble with my lefts and rights. I would be like, oh, let's go left, and I would put my blinker on to go right. I don't even know. It was like it was me trying to adjust. But my dad ended up taking me through an area that really helped strengthen that. And, now I'm like, boom, boom, boom. And, I think it's just having also parents identify the child or, the weakness that they have with driving and then working on with them that with a lot of patience, of course. That's what I would say.
That's great. That's really great advice. Glad that your father was patient with you. That's a super valuable asset. Mikayla, I'll go to you next. How did you learn to drive, and what was that experience like for you?
Well, yeah. So my story is a little bit different. Ever since I was young, I've kind of been driving, but not like behind a car or anything like that. Like when I was younger, I would go to like South Carolina, North Carolina, and they have like tractor trailers and stuff like that. Like my father, they would drive the tractor trailers. So I kind of learned how to do that first. And then I've always been like obsessed with cars. I've always been to like car races. I've always went to like racetracks and stuff like that. So it's kind of always been like interesting for me. It's always been natural for me and everything like that. And then once I finally did take like my courses and everything to start driving, then I got my permit. My father, he would teach me how to drive. I would go to his job, and he has like a really big like field and everything. And I would just like practice driving there. I would practice parking. I would practice like driving, my turns and everything. And then like K-turns and parallel parking and everything like that. So he's always like taught me, like every day we would be out, or every weekend he would just take me driving or whatever. And my test for my driver's license is actually in like 2 weeks, I would say. My test is in like 2 weeks, so I'm pretty excited for that. But yeah, like my father, he's always been like the person that I would go to. He will always come to me and be like, hey, let's go for a drive, or let's practice and stuff like that. Even till this day, we're still practicing. We're still getting ready for my test and everything like that. And my advice, I would say, is everyone has a different way of driving. Like no one drives the complete same. When you're driving on the road, there's certain techniques that works for you, and there's certain techniques that works for other people. So I wouldn't you have to find out what works for you. You have to find out how you can turn, or like how you want to hold the wheel and like certain stuff, because the way someone else turns may not be the way you turn and stuff like that. So I think that's a major part when it comes to like parents teaching their kids, or like anyone teaching you. when it comes to driving. You kind of have to figure out what works best for you and then apply that, and then you'll probably get better as you go.
That makes a lot of sense. And Mikayla, one thing we often talk about when we talk to parents about teaching their kids how to drive is it doesn't start when your child turns 16 and they get the permit. It starts long before that, because they're watching you drive throughout childhood, and they're picking up your habits and seeing what you do behind the wheel. It sounds like you had a lot of experience watching your dad drive throughout your childhood. Do you think you were maybe subconsciously watching or even consciously watching the things he was doing?
Yeah, I would always watch what he was doing when he was driving, like the way he turned, or when, like, I always paid attention to the little details when he would like look both ways, or when he would make a certain turn, or like backing up. Like, I always paid attention to the small things that he did, and I kind of just applied that to myself when I started driving, and it made it way easier than just not knowing anything or just going into driving not really, like, never been able to drive and never really seen anyone driving before.
Great. Thanks, Mikayla. And Giovanni, I'll turn it to you. How did you learn to drive? What's that experience been like for you? And any advice that you can give on things that worked or didn't work?
Yeah, well, for me, driving, I had a different idea on driving. I feel as though driving, like the experience and the techniques and everything about driving just kind of came to me. Because for me, I look at it as like driving is like walking, when you're walking, you're in public, a bunch of people. When you're driving, there's a bunch of cars around you. When you're walking, you see the red light, the red stop hand on this on the light, you stop. When you see the white passenger, you walk. When you're driving, when you see the red light, you stop. When you see the green light, you go. Look both ways. Stay in your lane. For me, that's how I see it. And it's the same thing for riding a bike. I guess when you're riding a bike, you watch if there's a car next to you, if there's a person next to you, if there's anybody that you have to watch out for to continue riding your bike, And there's other experiences that led me up to being a better driver, like going go-karting. I've been go-karting before. I've been on boats, everything. I've been on planes, actually been in passenger seats of planes. Every little thing, like every vehicle or everything that you do kind of helps you in driving. When you have a different perspective of how other people view the streets, it gives you a better understanding. And there's a lot of experiences of me being in the passenger seat, been through situations on the road, not only being a safe driver, but coming to know what to do if something happens. Like if a flat tire goes out, I've been through situations like that, or if a deer runs across the road, situations like those that also helped me with my driving experience. Everything kind of just came, and and I have to give a thanks to my parents and my instructor, also teaching me, about side view mirrors and how to back up slowly, don't have a hard foot. They also taught me how to accelerate, how to brake, because some teens actually struggle with accelerating and braking. Some might accelerate too hard, or someone might brake too slowly or too close to another vehicle, So I feel as though every experience that you take in public, either walking on a bike, go-karting, just things that you have to do to look around and make sure that you're okay, and stay in your own lane, that honestly helps you with your driving. That's what I can say about my experience about driving.
No, that's a great point. Great points. Sorry, you were gonna.
Yeah, I was just gonna tell the advice that I was gonna give.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
please.
Advice that I have to give is whatever you struggle on most, just practice on it. Practice on it in an open parking lot. That's what I used to do, because before, I never used to put my signals on, or I never used to really look at my mirrors. I'll take a quick glimpse and I'll just run off ahead, but you never know if somebody's walking next to the vehicle, if somebody's on a bike next to the vehicle that's running past, you can't really see it. So it just take your time slow. Make sure that everybody in the vehicle is safe. Put your seatbelt on, safeties first. Make sure that not only you is safe, but everybody else that's on the road is safe as well. Just be patient, go over it. If something doesn't feel right, you can always, adjust it to what you're comfortable of doing. Everybody has a different way of driving. You have to find your way of driving. And you could do that doing many things. I don't know. You could watch tips, watching things on YouTube, watching other people do it. That'll give you a higher IQ or more technique to your driving experience. So that's my advice.
That's great stuff, Giovanni. And I'm going to come back to you with the next question, which kind of inspired with your comment about making sure your seatbelt is on. That's something that we're very passionate about here at AAA, making sure that everyone in the car has their seatbelt on, or if they're a young child, is in an appropriate car seat. I'm hoping that you all are putting your seatbelts on all the time, whether you're a driver, passenger, or in the back seat. How do you think your peers feel about seatbelts? And would you be comfortable telling one of your friends, hey, can you make sure to put the seatbelt on, or maybe even a relative, hey, make sure you put your seatbelt on?
Yeah, of course. Because honestly, my peers or some of the people that I'm surrounded by, they don't really wear their seatbelts. They like to, I guess, be cool or follow the trend. Not wearing seatbelts, riding low, seat all the way back. And to me, that's not the way to go, because now it might seem okay, that you're doing it because everybody else is doing it, but then further in the future it becomes a trend. You stop wearing your seatbelt less, wearing your seat back, and honestly that can cause a really, really bad accident. For just simple things that you can do just in a second, like putting your seatbelt on, making sure that everybody in the vehicle has their seatbelts on, everybody's strapped down, everybody's ready to go, because you never know what can happen on the road. There's plenty of people that have years of experience of driving, and something happens. Anything can happen. For not putting your seatbelt on. Simple things like not putting your seatbelt on. So
absolutely. Yeah. Isabelle, do you have similar experiences with seatbelts and yourself and peers?
I'm gonna be honest. So this is something that I've learned over the past, 5 years of me being in community prevention. I've met a lot of different kids from around the state and around the country, and I think for me, I don't see that as much as my school. I see more of there's a lot of alcohol or marijuana use, but I've learned that every school is different. So what one school might struggle more with kids distracted driving, another school might struggle with seatbelt safety, and another, might struggle with, substance abuse. But I can say I have no problem telling someone, whether it's me as the driver or me as the passenger, to put their seatbelt on. I get in my car and I put it on, and I don't leave until everyone does. And I'm like, okay, can you please put your seatbelt on? I'm not trying to risk your life. I'm not trying to, kill either of us if something were to potentially happen, because you never know. As well as the same of, I don't have an issue with telling anyone to put their phone down if they're driving and texting. I'll be like, okay, so first of all, it's no hands on your device in Rhode Island, as well as that's really dangerous. You're putting your life and my life and other drivers' lives at danger. So let me do it for you. I'll be the DJ. That's what I always say. Like, I'll be the DJ. Like, if you need me to text someone, let me know. But I do see there are teens that I do see that, don't wear their seatbelt. And I'm like, hey, wear your seatbelt. Whereas, some kids, like Giovanni said, they're just kind of like, oh, it's cool, riding without a seatbelt. No, it's not. It's not going to be cool when, you potentially injure yourself, you potentially injure or kill someone else. We want to see our teens and, other family members walking, breathing, living, and coming home safe to us. And we want the same for them as well. So That's.
And you have obviously worked in prevention on the community level. I'm wondering, you know, how can we take your willingness to speak up if you see something that's unsafe, whether it's seatbelts or someone texting or talking on the phone while they're driving? How do we get more kids to feel comfortable speaking up in those sorts of situations?
You know, I would definitely say like things like this, and I think also just you know, maybe having more positivity around seeing kids talk about seatbelts. You know, in my years of prevention, I also saw a lot of videos regarding as to why teens shouldn't wear a seatbelt. Like, no, not shouldn't. Why they wouldn't wear seatbelts. You know, whether it's because they don't want to bruise if they get into a crash or something like that. I think what we should take with that, and we should flip it. We should do a whole 360. We should be like, this is why teens think it's cool to wear seatbelts. Like, this is why teens want to wear seatbelts. You know, there's different ways as well. It also depends on the kid's situation. Some kids see it from, again, their parents or their guardian, and they think it's okay. Whereas, you know, because it's a family member, they feel like they shouldn't say anything. Just like, you know, some kids don't say anything if they are with a parent or a relative and they're texting and driving, or they're drinking and driving and they get in the car anyways. I think it really comes down to, you know, promoting positivity around it, you know, showing videos of teens and have teens speaking about, you know, why it's important to wear a seatbelt and what you can do in a safe, kind manner to tell someone to wear a seatbelt, not to distract and drive, or to not drink and drive.
In the traffic safety community, we hear a lot about, you know, don't do this, don't do that, and hear the reasons why some people might be engaging in these bad behaviors. But you're right, maybe we need to be highlighting drivers like you or Giovanni or Mikayla who are doing the right things and saying, you know, this is what we should be doing, rather than, you know, don't do that. Maybe that the positive message plays better. Thanks. That's a great point. I'm going to transition to Mikayla, and Isabelle mentioned distracted driving, so maybe it's a good time to talk about that. Mikayla, I'm wondering, what are the messages that you're hearing about distracted driving, and do you think your peers are engaging in a lot of texting or talking on the phone while they're driving?
Right, yeah. So when it comes to my peers and even like family members, just people that I know, I see a lot of people texting and driving, or even when I'm driving and I see like a car next to me, he's like looking at his phone or she's looking at her phone and stuff like that. Whenever I'm with someone and they like pick their phone up, like Isabelle said, I'll tell them like, I can do that for you. If it's for the GPS, I'll be the GPS, or if it's for music, I'll be the aux person. Like, you can just focus on driving because there's many of us around. We don't want to get into no accidents. We don't want to have no casualties or anything like that. So when it comes to like people being distracted and like, or even things like eating and stuff like that, like I know like we be hungry and stuff when we're driving, but we can pull over, or I can drive, or we can, I don't know, figure something out. But I'd rather us figure something out than something bad happens because someone was distracted by texting and driving or eating, or even the smallest thing, like if they had to reach into the back for something, or reach into the glove compartment for something, like stuff like that. Like, I'll tell them like, I can do that for you. You guys, like, you can just focus on driving because I don't want nothing bad to happen. And when it comes to myself, like, I try my hardest not to, when my phone goes off, like, either it'll be hooked up to the car, or I'm going to just wait. Like, I'm not going to go onto my phone. I'm not going to take a peek or anything like that. Like, I just like to focus on driving. Even with my father, sometimes, like, he slips up, you know, like, we all slip up and stuff like that. Like, he'll look at his phone for, like, I don't know, like 5 seconds or something. I'd be like, okay, like, put your phone down. Like, we're driving and stuff like that. So, yeah, when it comes to distractions, like, I don't have a problem telling someone to, like, not do that, or me offering myself, like, hey, I'll do it for you, or anything like that. Or even, like, I don't know, just any type of situation. I'd rather us be safe than sorry, you know?
That's great. And I'm gonna highlight what you said about all types of distractions. That's something that we talk about when we teach teens to drive, and when we're talking about this to anyone, not just teens, because I don't know if you feel like this. I think sometimes the media and the traffic safety community almost is singling out teens for distracted driving, when we know, as you said, Mikayla, you look around and it's everyone. It's all the cars that you're seeing pass by you. But you mentioned eating, you mentioned reaching for things, GPS. It's not just texting, it's a whole bunch of things that count as distractions. Do you feel like when you are speaking up, Mikayla, that, yeah, hey, I'll take care of that for you? Do you think that your friends or your relatives are getting the message that, hey, this is, you shouldn't do this now, but also next time when I'm not here, you shouldn't do this either?
Yeah, I think they do get the message, because like I'm always on top of it, and I'm always like giving examples and stuff, like showing what's happened to other people. If like you want to do that, like not saying that it's gonna happen to them, but it could be an outcome of what can happen, and I don't want that to happen to anyone I care about, or any regular person, anyone who's on the street, like stuff like that. It's just you have to kind of just be strong, and you have to like get it through to the person. And even what Isabelle said, like kind of switching the way we kind of like present things to people, like I think that can also be a good idea and kind of show more positivity, so it could actually, get into people's heads and stick. You don't want to always like force something, but maybe we should try to bring light to the situation and then show it that way.
That's great. Thanks, Mikayla. And I'll transition to Giovanni, and wanted to ask about impaired driving. Impairments could be alcohol, marijuana, prescription drugs, other illegal drugs. What are you seeing among your friends, your peers, your classmates about impaired driving? Do they get the message about alcohol and driving being unsafe? Do they get the message about marijuana and driving being unsafe?
Okay, so to be honest, that is gonna be a no. No, my peers do not get the message of drinking and driving and, smoking marijuana and driving, because as rising seniors, and everybody's young, everybody's getting their license, everybody's getting their permits. When you're a teen, you have energy, you're motivated to get in vehicles or to whatever you're doing. It's something new, because driving is something new and a lifelong experience for everybody. So, as rising seniors, we just have a lot of kids going out, and, I guess they call it fun. I guess they call it fun because they're young, and, they're hanging out with their buddies, and they're hanging out with, people that they might not know, or other people that have, vehicles and license that they just got. But I don't think that my peers really understand that it's not just about now, but it's about future driving experiences, because everything you do now is just going to benefit in the future. If now, you're drinking and driving, and, you're smoking and driving, you might think you're going to stop, or you might think you're going to quit, but in the future, it might build up to you doing it more, or doing it more frequently, or, maybe the person who's drinking and driving has a follower. They have followers, and, they have people that they look up to, and those people that are looking up to them are going to do the exact same things. You're feeding the more negative traits or the more negative techniques of driving to these young children, or to the young people that are coming up now in the world, that we actually need for them to be safe on the road, instead of them being in danger. It's just things like that. Some of my peers, they might not stop at a red light, might take it. Some other peers might stop at a red light, but who knows? They might take a turn too quick. They might not put their signals on, and that's all about just learning. It's not about what you know, it's about what you can teach, what you can leave behind, so that other people can pick up what you do and do it better.
That makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned social media, and the fact that a lot of these folks might have followers that are seeing their bad behavior and modeling off of that. Is that something that you're seeing on social media? Like, are you seeing videos of people doing stupid stuff behind the wheel?
Of course. Not even just on social media, in reality, you know. In my life, I've been in vehicles where people, you know, they try to imitate their favorite artist, their favorite musician, their favorite who knows, actor, whatever they do on social media, you know, driving fast, switching lanes, I guess. I don't know, just doing what they think, I guess, is cool. But honestly, I know that feeling that you want to do it. You know, you want to go fast. You want to be this. You want to be that. You want to be cool. Because I've done it before. I have, but there's not always, you know, it's not always about that. It's about, you know, sometimes you just have to think like, I had to make it to a destination, you know, and I just want to make sure that everybody is safe. Because most people just try to imitate their whoever they follow on social media, and they think it's cool, and it's starting to become a trend. You know, if you put a you know, I guess if you put a fan base behind something, you know, people are going to start to believe it more, and people are going to start doing it more.
Obviously, that's disheartening and a major concern that we have to deal with. And I know it's 4:45, but we start a little bit late, so you know, I'll keep the conversation going just for a little bit more. And I'll transition over to Isabelle. In regards to what Giovanni just told us, obviously a lot of concerns about that. In your, you know, experience working with SAD, like, what are effective ways to either counteract these, I guess, these messages of unsafety, to put it that way, that folks are getting, whether from their peers in real life or on social media?
Yeah, so I'm going to be completely honest. It starts right at the state and local level. I started a SAD group back when I was in 8th grade, and then I moved to Warwick, and I started another SAD group in my high school. And I would always do something around prom time. We would always do something to ensure that kids, you know it's not a joke to, you know, drive impaired. Whether it's, I see a lot of kids smoking behind the wheel, you know, and maybe even a little bit of drinking behind the wheel, unfortunately. One year we did do, we went to an elementary school and we had 5th graders write, you know, notes about staying safe and driving home and getting home safely after prom night. And they were all put at the prom tables for junior and senior prom. And I think that really hits home. Having like a little 10-year-old, you know, a little like 7, 8, 9-year-old tell you don't drink and drive, please come home safely. I think that tugs at your heartstrings a little bit, because you're like, oh my goodness, like this little kid doesn't even know me and they want me to be home safe. Better yet, if you have a little sibling, like you look at them and you're like, you know, I need to come home, like I need to come home safe for my little sister, for my little brother, they're looking up to me. But I think from a national level, there's a lot of things that SAD does. We have, you know, we do partnerships with Waymo, partnerships with, you know, Ford and Driving Skills 101, and then the blog posts from a lot of our SLC and CAC. So they've been doing a lot of support around traffic safety, and they've expanded greatly to a lot of different topics that affect teens today, but they still focus heavily on traffic safety. But I can just say that, again, hearing from teens directly, having student serving organizations and student serving initiatives really shows kids to speak up, and to make, you know, the good decisions. And when you put those same teens who are working on a national level next to your peers, or even they're just working in their communities next to your peers, there's a little bit intimidation that they, you know, maybe I shouldn't do this because so and so is here. And then you hope at some point maybe they're like, oh, you know, like they think of you, and then they don't. You know, I've had a lot of people in the past who have supported me, a lot of people who didn't support me but didn't say it to my face. I'm very vocal about what I do. And I've had a lot of people say, oh, you know, I thought of you while doing this, and I, you know, in turn, I didn't do this. Or, you know, I remember your sister's story and I decided to get a ride home. we're just going out into the community, like I'll hear, other teens say like, someone in my family was hit by a drunk driver, and thank you so much for sharing your story. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, there's a lot of teens who also don't think it's going to happen to them. And if they do it a couple times and they're like, oh, I didn't hit anyone, or no one hit me, the first time I did it, so it's okay the next following time. I think that's what everyone thinks. They're like, oh, it's not gonna happen to me. I could never be hit by a drunk driver. Like, I could never be hit by someone who's impaired or on narcotics or something. Um, yeah. I just think at the end of the day that unfortunately we can't think like that anymore, and we have to play it safe at the end of the day. And I think having teens like us, talk about it continuously, will also help shape the fact of how parents will teach their kids how to drive. SAD also does something similar to AAA, and they do, parent road trip tips, some tips of how to teach your child how to drive while they are mastering the art of driving. I just think it also comes down to, like Giovanni said, like who are you looking up to, but as well as, who, like, what's being taught and how a child takes that and flips it and makes it, does it better. I just also think it comes down to parents talking about it at home and teaching their child and reapplying it like that as well.
That's all really great stuff, and makes a lot of sense, and it's really, again, inspiring all the work that you're doing to try to work on these issues. Mikayla, I'll come over to you with, I guess, a similar question about the impaired driving. I know you and Giovanni are both at the same school, so I'm guessing that you're seeing some of the same risky behaviors with regards to impaired driving. What do you think would be effective tactics or strategies to get the word out to the kids who are engaging in the dangerous behaviors, besides just saying, don't do this? Because if we just say don't do it, that might not work well enough.
Right. And yeah, since we're in the same environment, I see some of the same, people as well doing drinking and driving or doing other types of drugs and stuff. But I think, me personally, I feel like our parents really do have, like, I feel like what we see our parents kind of do mimics a lot of the stuff that we do. And maybe a kid is doing this because maybe it's not because he's necessarily trying to be cool, but maybe that's kind of how he grew up. Maybe that's what his parents did, or maybe that's what he's always seen people around him do. So I think kind of letting parents get the proper information on how to teach their kids how to drive and like the proper things to do, would also help the kids when they're at home or when they go to drive and stuff like that. Also, like, because, we can always say not to do it, but if someone wants to do something, they're probably going to do it regardless. But I do like the fact that a lot of companies or a lot of, like, people, they'll come to the schools and everything, and they'll teach you on drunk driving, and they'll show videos of, like, what can happen if you do drink and drive, or what's happened to other people. I think that affects a lot of people within the schools itself, because when you're actually seeing, like, the damage that it causes, or if you're seeing, like, possible outcomes and stuff, or, like, even real life scenarios, like, I had my boyfriend, his brother actually just passed away about 2 months ago because of drunk driving. And he wasn't even the person driving in the car, but the driver was driving, and everyone in the car passed away, unfortunately. And it was like seeing stuff like that, like it was going all around the towns and everything, and all on social media. And it's just like seeing stuff like that kind of like, it allows your brain to really like get the concept and really like understand what's going on. Like, okay, I shouldn't be doing this, and I shouldn't like let people I know do this. Or if I have something to say about it, then I can say something. Or like if I see someone doing it, like say something, kind of stand up for it and don't just let it slide. Because even like in our daily lives, like stuff like this can happen, and we don't know who it's gonna affect. We don't know what the possible outcomes are. So I think we should really like find out. I think we should really like keep on with the schoolings, and like keep letting people come and keep teaching the kids like what to do and what not to do, right from wrong. But I also think it takes a toll on their life personally and like their parents' lives, because they may just be mimicking what they see on a regular basis.
Well, Mikayla, first, so sorry to hear about that tragedy, and certainly our condolences go out to you and your boyfriend and everyone involved. And it just drives it home, the reason why we're organizing talks like this, the reason why you have so many people coming into schools and working on this issue. And as we heard today from the three of you, there's a lot of work to be done. But we're gonna keep working hard. And I think that point that you made at the end there, Mikayla, is really important. And all three, you made it throughout, which is that you can't be afraid to speak up. If you see friends, if you see relatives, family members engaging in this risky behavior, which we probably all have, it only takes a second. It only takes one bad decision. And we're going to keep working hard to try to prevent all these tragedies. So Mikayla, Giovanni, and Isabelle, I want to thank all of you. I think the roads would be a lot safer if everyone driving, including all the adults, was as conscientious as you are. I think hopefully a lot of the attendees learned a lot from the things you had to say. I know I did. And I also want to thank our attendees for participating today. And this webinar will be recorded, so feel free to share it later to anyone else that you think would benefit from the insight. But again, Giovanni, Isabelle, Mikayla, thanks so much. Good luck in your senior years of high school, and good luck starting at Roger Williams tomorrow. Lots of great milestones coming up. I know not under the circumstances we all envisioned with the state of the world, but hope that you can achieve the best success. So thanks everyone, and have a good evening.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your experience.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us.
Sure thing. Take care.